The recording is right. Okay, fine. Good morning to everybody. Warm welcome to the ladies' Parsha Shiur, Parshas Kedoshim in Sfiras HaOmer after Yontov Kedoshim. Wow, Kedoshim. Just remember the most important thing after Yontov you got to think of is interesting. Kedoshim to you. You are holy people. You are holy people. And Rashi tells us actually, if the very first comment of Rashi in this Parsha is that the Parsha was said by Hakhel. Anybody know what Hakhel means?
Gathering.
Yeah, gathering, meaning that it was given in front of everyone.
We have it every 7 years, don't we?
Yes, that's a year of Hakhel. Shnas Hakhel, very good. So Hakhel means a gathering. So in other words, Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all the people together because this Parsha has so many basic vital rules in it. In fact, you know, he says actually, most of the concepts of the Torah are based in this Parsha. This is a very important Parsha, and that's why perhaps the idea of getting everybody together. And what is a beautiful observation, if you look, is that, you know, obviously the people are being called upon to do something, to live up to their position as being holy. Yeah, lovely, wonderful. But you see, you see, some people in Judaism, they think if you want to get people to motivated, you want to get people inspired, what do? Hello, Mrs.
Gather them together.
Yeah, but it's not just gather them. But you know what some people like to do? They like to give mussar. You know what I mean, mussar? They tell people, you better do this, or else there's gonna, you know, you're gonna get trouble, you're gonna get punished, right? And some people think that this is the way to inspire people, and it's not true. Where do we learn? Look at this Parsha. What's the first thing you tell Jews when you want them to do something? Kedoshim to you. You are a holy, special people. Don't denigrate them. Don't undermine them. Don't speak pejoratively to them, and don't threaten them. Yes, you want to inspire people. Tell them who they are. Tell them how great they are. Right? We are all great people, and therefore, when great people are capable of achieving great things. If you think you're a nothing and a nobody, you know what? Guess what? Somebody once said, you know, if you think you can't, you probably won't. Right? But if you think you can, you probably will. Right? So you need encouragement. Everyone needs encouragement. Right? This is what it's all about.
Say we will.
Now, let us analyze a little statement from a great commentator of the Chumash called the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, otherwise known as Nachmanides, not to be confused with Maimonides. Yes, Maimonides, Nachmanides.
We have Ramban.
Yes.
Ramban.
See, because of course it's out of I guess the e's at the end, or ides, you know, is the son of, because Maimonides, Moshe ben Ramban, is the son of Maimonides, and then Nachman, Moshe ben Nachman, Nachmanides. Yes, I guess that must mean the son of somehow. Anyway, I had some kind of Latinization. Now, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, he lived a little bit after the Rambam, towards the tail end of the life of the Rambam, and then sort of afterwards in the 13th century, early 13th century. And he writes a very interesting thing here. He says that in the previous Parsha, if you remember, previous Parsha is called Acharei, and at the end of the last week's Parsha speaks all about the forbidden, the prohibited relationships. Yes, some pretty heavy stuff there. Who we can marry, who we can't marry, who we're allowed to have a relationship with, right? All these sort of problems with, you know, forbidden relationships. And so the Ramban says, and now suddenly he says, Kedoshim to you. So the Ramban says, interesting, he says, look, what is this Parsha trying to teach us? Or this name, Kedoshim, trying to teach us? That there's two parts to being a Jew. One is that you're supposed to not do what you're not supposed to do. And you're supposed to do what you're supposed to
Yeah.
do, right? You got your do's and your don'ts. Yes? And that's, if you like, symbolized, like last week, you can do this, you can't do this, you can marry this one, you can't be around that one, right? But then we have a generic mitzvah called Kedoshim Tihiyu. What's this general mitzvah of Kedoshim? You should be holy. Well, what does that mean to be holy? Are we holy or not holy? If we are holy, so what are you telling me to be holy for? I already am holy. And we are holy. We just said we're holy people. We are a holy nation. Goy Kadosh, right? We are referred to as a holy nation. So what then is Hashem trying to tell us here? Kedoshim to you. You will be holy. Okay. I mean, if I am holy, I will be. I was, and I am, and I will be. It's not something you really choose to be. But he said, actually, there is a way you can increase your holiness. How can we increase our holiness? Well, obviously, by doing mitzvahs, right? That's one thing. And here there's actually another mitzvah in the Torah, which doesn't get much press, doesn't get much publicity. This mitzvah in the Torah, would you believe? It's a mitzvah to sanctify yourself. We'll see what that means in a minute. Okay, let's just say it now. Sanctify yourself, meaning maybe separate yourself a little bit in that which is permissible to you. Even things that are allowed, you're allowed to do, things that you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to drink, you're allowed to practice, technically it's not prohibited, right? But if you're doing it just purely for the sake of indulgence, I love that, or that's yummy, I'm just indulging myself, yes? Then, the Torah says, look, you know what? Sometimes you can say no to yourself. You can say no to yourself. Now, it doesn't mean starving yourself.
That's kafir.
Chas v'sholom. Yes, exactly. It doesn't mean depriving yourself of what is necessary for a good and healthy life, right? But sometimes I think we all recognize that sometimes we do indulge a little bit, a little bit. Now, sometimes it's okay, occasionally a little bit of indulgence. I mean, Shabbat, for example, yes, Shabbat is a bit of a mitzvah to indulge, if you like, in physical, material pleasures, albeit having in mind that it's not ourselves we're indulging. We're not supposed to be doing it to ourselves. It's the mitzvah of Shabbat. Yes, we're sort of, how should we say, paying tribute to Shabbat, which is a day of pleasure and enjoyment. Yeah. So therefore we are able to eat and drink more in a much way. So it's about the mitzvah of Shabbat. Again, it's not about us, right? During the week to indulge ourselves is not completely necessary. So therefore, the Torah says, Kedoshim to you. Try and separate yourself, sanctify yourself, even in that which is permissible to you. Okay? And, and how do we have the power to do this? Well, he says, Ki ani Hashem Elokeichem. I, Hashem, I'm your God. In other words, I do that. I do certain things. Hashem holds himself back from doing certain things. Would you believe? Okay, and the very fact that there exists a finite world is already Hashem holding himself back, because Hashem is totally infinite. Ein od mavado. Nothing else should really exist except Hashem. Yes, nothing should exist. How do we exist? Well, he kind of hides himself. Hashem hides himself in the world and allows a world to exist that can recognize him, acknowledge him, accept him. Right? So Hashem, so to speak, holds himself back from doing certain things that would be natural to him.
More examples, like
more examples.
Yeah, like this. Yeah.
I just thought that was the biggest example of all.
Okay.
Well, of course, he holds himself back sometimes from punishing, from meting out justice. He gives us patience, tremendous patience. He gives us.
Have dessert and shots. They sit there very holy, and everybody else has dessert.
Well, we've just said Shabbos is, of all the days, Shabbos is once there's a mitzvah. They're in control.
Yeah, exactly. But Christian, I'm thinking about more than just Hashem.
Tell me what you're thinking.
When you say, like, the gray, it's not black and white, the gray.
Yes.
What should our thoughts be, like, to what extent, holding back, like what?
Well, put it this way. You said a good word, iskafia. Yeah. Now, iskafia it is an Aramaic word, which basically means just crushing the
Okay.
road.
Yeah.
I like to say just saying no to yourself.
Right next to me.
Now, some people do it because of various health reasons, dietary reasons, but then we have, years and years ago, I think with the Reagans, I think Nancy Reagan, there was a campaign in America about drugs. Just say no. You remember that? Just say no.
So all the bumper stickers in
Right?
California.
Now, drugs, of course, is harmful to you. Okay, so obviously you should do that. We're talking about, just indulgence in material things
Right. Like,
for no
Yeah,
reason
exactly.
other than you want to indulge yourself. Yes,
right.
is not healthy. It's not you're not healthy. It's kind of wrong, because everything we do should be really guiding principle with how we're serving Hashem. So when we eat, for example, since we're sitting where there's food and drink being served.
I just put it in.
No, I'm saying since I was apologies to those on Zoom. You don't know what you're missing out. There's a smorgasbord, biscuits and mints and teas and coffees. You need to come over here if you're able. Oh yeah. So when we are eating these things, the Torah says, look, you should try and not. It's not like you can avoid physical enjoyment, because it's very hard to avoid physical enjoyment, especially if you're eating something that tastes good. You enjoy strawberries, but don't enjoy those strawberries. Oh no, don't enjoy them. Oh no, I'm not enjoying them. You're eating them. Oh no, I'm really not enjoying them. No, I'm not allowed to enjoy it. Oh no, I can't stand these strawberries. Give me a few more. I can't stand them. I'm doing this kafir by eating them. No, you can't avoid enjoyment, but a person should perhaps not be. There's a nice Yiddish word. I don't know how to you're cocking something. How do you translate?
Yeah,
cocking?
get like
Is-
put your kishkas in it, like.
Yeah, it's another Yiddish word. It's not easy to find the English word, but don't get so stuck in. I guess that's yes, okay. You know what I mean?
And that.
Don't get so involved and like going and taken over by the pleasure. Some people, they eat something, delicious, and they go, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just they get a bit OTT. So really, the idea is that we do it to serve Hashem, and that's it. We should be eating the energy that we get when we eat and drink to serve Hashem. And sometimes you may have, let's say, 2 pieces of cake, and one is more delicious than the other. So you might want to say that if you would take the less delicious piece of cake, that might be considered kadesh atzmacha b'mutalach. That's sanctifying yourself in that which is permitted to you, because both pieces of cake are permitted to you. But who says you have to take the most geschmack? Another Yiddish word. Who says you have to take the most delicious one?
You can take half of each.
Very good.
And then
That's for 2024.
you stop thinking about it, and then you can move on.
Very good point. This is true. Sometimes, in order to
Move on.
that's an interesting point. Sometimes, in order to move on, sometimes very good bit of advice here. Have a little taste, and then move on. The only problem is, once you've had the taste,
Just a little bit
you're
more.
like, just a little bit more. Yeah, you try and put something aside. Yeah, I'm going to put that aside for next time. Maybe I should have it right now.
So I stopped thinking about it.
So well, you won't think about it once it's gone, that's for sure. So anyway, but this is what, in a sense, we are required as Jews to try to be a bit holy, or a lot holy.
Self-control.
The more, but you see, self-control is like quite often like when you're trying to control yourself between kosher and not kosher. Yes, that is this basic discipline. Kashrus is very Shabbat. A lot of the mitzvahs are basic discipline, which is very very helpful, right? And but here is something again a little bit more than, if you like, what is required. Although again, this is actually a mitzvah in the Torah that says you should be holy. Yeah, you shall. So it's not just a bit of extra cream on the cake, shall we say? Okay, now let's move on. I want to draw your attention, if I may. So much stuff in the weeks. Yeah. Sorry? Oh, I thought I heard a question. Okay. Someone has a question? Or is that a baby? Yes. The baby has a question. Okay. I don't think it's probably okay. Now, if I could draw your attention to verse 9, page 760, 761. Now, verse 9 says, when you reap and harvest your land, you should not fully reap the corner of your field. Right, we know about this. This is the mitzvah called payah. Payah. It's a mitzvah you've got to leave apart for the poor people. And also, it says, or even gather those individual stalks that sometimes fall. You don't need to gather every single stalk of grain or fruit. So sometimes, those things, they fall, they don't end up in the sheath. So you don't have to go sugar every single last one you've got to put in the sheath. No, you could leave those leave those for the poor people as well. And there's a third one. What's the third one?
Grapes.
No, there's the third form of whatchamacallit. Yes, no, I mean this applies to all things you grow. A corner of the field, individual stalks, and the third one, tithing is at the end, but there's a very specific thing even at the time of the cutting down the harvesting. Well, there's a mitzvah called shichah, which means those things you have forgotten.
Oh, right.
Forgotten. Don't go back. You forgot it. Leave it for the poor person, right? So we got those three things. Two of them are mentioned now. Okay, fine. Now, so it's talking about mitzvahs of when you, right now, if you move, go on now to page 19. No, not page 19, sorry. Pasuk 19. 766, 767.
Right.
It says
right here.
verse 19. Actually, verse 19 is actually on 769.
Yeah.
You should observe my super rational command. I love that. Super rational. That's the original translation of cooking. You should not crossbreed with livestock with different species. You should not sow your fields with a mixture of seeds. Right? We're talking about mixtures of it, right? And then we got a garment, right? Also garments, what we call shatners, yes? Wool and linen, you can't do. Okay. Now, so it's speaking here about not mixing seeds, not mixing the animals. So we're talking about sowing, aren't we? We're talking about sowing seeds, sowing grains, sowing different species, yes? Now, and we're talking about mitzvah to do with that, about not mixing. But an interesting question that the Rabbi asks, and that is, why are we talking, what comes first in the natural order of things, sowing or harvesting?
Sowing.
It's not a trick question. Sowing. Sowing comes and then you harvest, right?
Yeah.
After weeks or months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But what are we talking about first in the Torah, in verse 9? What are we talking about? Harvesting or sowing? Harvesting. And then we wait for several verses, go to 19, and then we start about sowing.
Why?
So why is there a reversal of the order, of the natural order of things? Interesting question. I wouldn't even notice that question.
We're taking care of man and fellow man, first before we're taking care of.
It's an interesting,
Yeah.
It's an interesting,
helping.
the mitzvah of tzedakah.
Yeah.
So first comes between man and man, and then comes between
man. God.
Nice answer. Actually, it's not bad. Kedoshim,
Mrs.
Rabbi and Esther.
Mrs. Severn has a better one.
No, I don't think she does. I think it's quite a good one. I like that. I haven't
what's
actually.
The answer?
Well, it's not my answer. It's the Rebbe's answer. He answers the whole. It's all like this. He says like this. Just try and analyze for the moment. What is the whole prohibition for mixing seeds, or mixing animals, or mixing fruits, or mixing anything?
It's like playing with Hashem.
Yeah, Hashem has made various things in the world. Yes, various species, and He wants the integrity of those species to be maintained.
So why are we able to benefit from like oranges and so forth? Yeah,
yeah, it's true. We're not supposed to do it originally,
right?
But once it's been done, yes, then even non-Jews are not supposed to. But yeah, once it's been done, it's done. It's fait accompli in a way, and you are allowed to derive benefit from those things, which is pretty good because I'm sort of having a grapefruit every day.
We just
That would be a bit of a problem.
Orange is not. It's mixed.
It's not a natural fruit.
It's a mix between what?
A tangerine and a pomelo.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a grapefruit, by the way,
Florida doesn't even know
a
that.
grapefruit is a mix
Yeah, grapefruit
between
is
a pomelo and an orange.
an orange. Yeah. What?
I just said.
No. Oh,
You
okay.
just
So
said.
yeah, I know. I
And I
understand.
just
So
said.
what's the orange again? Is it?
Orange is a pomelo and a tangerine.
Oh, tangerine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it depends which grapefruit. Florida pink. No. Florida pink
Or
is very,
the red ruby.
but the regular grapefruit sometimes a bit sour. No?
Yeah, the blood thinners. No, not blood.
What's one of these
I used to have an
newfangled things?
twice a day. Stuff.
And they found that some hay fever pills, 1 in a million, 1 in a million person or something.
Yeah, did you
would
just
have
say that? Hay fever?
That's dangerous.
Yeah, because 1 in a million,
Fine.
something happens.
She's
Exactly.
gonna get a grapefruit though.
I think this is this was to do with business. Somebody decided it's a business cup, oh, we can prove that this product is unsafe, then we can make another product. But we digress. Let us not digress too much, as we often do. There's so schmuck, isn't it? These parenthetical statements about oranges and grapefruits. Yeah, all right. Well, hopefully she'll soon be back. We don't know. We'll see. Okay, that's another one. Almost good. All right. Let's not get involved there. We'll be here all morning. Okay. So the whole idea is that Hashem wants these species to be maintained their integrity as species, which interestingly enough is a very interesting reason why the dinosaurs were not let onto the ark, or other the animals were made extinct. I mean, obviously it would have had to be a bit of a larger ark. So it was quite fortunate. Hold on. It was a bit of fortunate that those animals that intermingle with different species were not let onto the ark. Now, why did they do that? I don't know. It's a horror. It doesn't make sense. I don't know. It's a Talmud. It's whatever, but it's not. It's Torah.
Okay, I just want to know if it's a midrash.
Well, I believe Rashi brings it. So it's Shutta Shel Mikra, because not all the animals made it onto the ark, and you have to know why. Well, the dinosaurs did die out.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Everyone said, "Well, what happened to the dinosaurs?" That's why they say there was some form of a deluge. So modern science likes to put it in the form of a comet from space or something. Right? They don't like this idea of a flood. I mean, that would be too biblical, wouldn't it? Can't have that. That would be biblical. So I've got to figure something else. Anyway, so therefore we should not bring species together and mix them together. That is the basis of that prohibition. Okay. Now, if you look at it that way, if you actually look at a field, let's imagine a field. Let's do a thought experiment. Right? You've got your own field of grain. You've just spent 6 months getting the wheat, and it's ready to be harvested. Well, and you're looking for tons of wheat in my granaries, and I can sell them. I can eat them. All kinds of good stuff, right? Now you have to understand that your field. There's 2 parts to your field. 2 parts to it. One that belongs to you, and one that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
Part of your food, part of your grain, part of your produce belongs to the poor people. And there are 3 ways the poor people get it. Yes? So as long as you look mentally, although the grain, it all looks the same, right? It all actually looks the same. But spiritually, they couldn't be more different. So when Hashem gives us any money, yes, whatever income we have, then usually we have a principle, which I think you mentioned earlier, about the idea of giving a tenth, a tithe, right? That is a Jewish thing. I mean, Christians also have taken that, they hijacked that, right? But like they hijacked so many other parts of religion. But so the idea of giving a tenth to charity, yeah, well, guess what? Because the tenth doesn't belong to you. It never did. It's not like, oh, I'm being such a nice person, I'm giving away a tenth. No, you're not. Hashem has given you 10, at least 10%, or some you can do 15, or some do 20%. Some go even go more than 20 if they feel they need to, whatever. But so that 10%, let's start with 10 because that's the basic, doesn't belong to you. You are, we are, I am, everybody gets it. We're like trustees. We're like individual trustees. So Hashem, it like makes us a trustee for some of the parnassah, right? A trustee is not his money. The trustee has just been appointed by the estate to distribute the money. That's what a trustee is, not his money, right? He sometimes acts like it's his money. But sometimes you have trustees who are perhaps involved in the company as well that may make a lot of money as well, right? But it doesn't have to be. The trustee can be completely somebody else, right? So we are trustees for our own little endowment trust of whatever Hashem has given to us. And we give it to whoever we want to give to, right? So let's look at then, if you look at it in a way of the field, although the food physically looks exactly the same, spiritually, they're two different things. What belongs to you, what belongs to the poor. And you don't want to mix them because then you mess up the integrity of one or the other. If you start mixing them all up, well, oh, I've just mixed all this together. I don't know how much mice I gave. I don't know how much this guy. I don't know how much. Yeah. So it all becomes a balagan. It becomes, so you don't know. So therefore, there's the desire, the need for the Torah to want to maintain that integrity, as we've just said, of the different parts of food. So now this is a spiritual concept. But of course, we have a principle that everything in the physical world stems from the spiritual world. It is a reflection. Whatever happens down in this world is a reflection of what happens on a higher spiritual dimension, higher spiritual reality. And therefore, if we have to understand that spiritual reality is expressed first in the idea of the harvesting, because the harvesting represents this idea of spiritual species of what belongs to you and what belongs to the poor. Now, once we've established the spiritual reality of not mixing different kind of quote-unquote species, then we can move to the more physical manifestation, which is the idea of actually literally not putting species of grains and grapes and different animals and different, right, but specifically sowing different species together. That explains the difference in order, because we start off with the harvesting, which teaches us the spiritual dimension of not mixing species. In other words, the root spiritual cause of it. Once we've got the root spiritual cause, okay, now we know what's going on. Now we can transfer that and we can discuss even something on the more physical level. Yeah, is that clear?
Yeah.
Everybody, is that clear what I've said? There's a lot of silence. As long as you get what I'm saying, that's fine. No, but I'm saying, sometimes there's a hang-up. Are we able to open a window, perhaps?
Yeah. Go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's look on to another verse, 19:4. No, actually, we might be going back a bit here, wasn't it?
19:4.
Well, actually, that must be a mistake. I'm actually looking for not putting a stumbling block in front of the blind person.
We didn't get to that.
No, we didn't. Oh, yes,
Did we do?
yeah.
It's 14 on page 765.
765. Well, thank you very much, Shimona. Verse 14. Yeah, fantastic.
Whoa, thank
Wonderful.
you.
Very good.
Right.
Lo yisakal el cheresh. No, don't we got nets? They weren't. The flies weren't coming. Ain't no flies on us. Sorry.
Amuna.
So, verse 14, verse page 764, 765. you should not place a stumbling block before a person who is blind. Now, if he puts in brackets, see what it says in brackets. To a certain matter, full stop. What does that mean? Since nobody can know your true intentions and you can always escape blame. Now, it's not really clear from this. He's done his best. He's done his best, but you probably have no idea what he's talking about. I wouldn't. If I was reading this, you should not place a stumbling block who is quote unquote blind to a certain matter. Anybody understand what that means?
Don't mislead them.
It's not so much mislead.
Don't deliberately mislead you because I want something.
Yeah, Rashi puts it like this. If somebody's blind in a certain matter, like he says to this matter, do not give them inappropriate advice. Advice that is inappropriate for that person. For example, and he gives an example. He doesn't say, oh, you know what? You should sell your field and buy a donkey. Okay.
Then he benefits.
Guess who's going to buy the field?
Him.
The person, because he wants a field, he needs a field, and he can't find one. So he comes to his mate and says, oh, you know what? I've been thinking about a good idea for you to buy a donkey, because then you could rent it out and you could hire it and do this, do that, right? Oh, he says, how about I can't pay for it? Sell your food, sell your what you call it? Sell your field. Who am I going to sell it to? You know what? I'll buy it for you. I'll buy it from you, right? Now, this is what Rashi says. Now, Rashi, again, we always say, he's the pshuto shel mikra. He's the basic, simple understanding of the Chumash. Now, if I ask you a question here, why can't we just say that you can't put a stumbling block in front of a blind person? Why can't you just say what it means? Literally, do something, or even, and even an example is an interesting thing. Why can't you just say it means literally, right? You can't put something in front of a blind person. And even if you want to say, let's say he's spiritually blind, let's say you might want to say give somebody certain food that they don't know is, let's say, Tommy, is ritually impure, right? Or you give him meat. Why we've got very it's like a very complicated example here. This guy with the field and the donkey, it's a bit tortuous. But the basic question, why can't we just say it means simple? Now, the usual answer is, I guess the standard answer is, whatever you would ever dream of doing that. That's the usual. Nobody would say, the Torah doesn't need to tell you something so obvious. Well, listen, the Torah does tell you, don't steal, don't kill, honor mum and dad, right? So there's so that the Torah doesn't just refrain from sometimes saying things that need to be said, even though they may be obvious. So is there another deeper reason why you can't, why this cannot mean what it says it is? It must mean something else. Any suggestions? I'm opening it to the floor.
Maybe it's because it's
I'm a Londoner.
hello.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that. Maybe it's because I'm a Londoner. Yeah. Sorry, Denise, I couldn't resist. Sorry.
Maybe it's because it's leaving it in a broader sense open to different eventualities.
But what I mean,
Not just in the strict
but why?
sense.
But no. But the point is, Rashi is saying he's telling us what it means, which means it doesn't mean. It's not he's saying it also means. He's not including saying, well, it means this, but it also means. Yes, it actually means this is what it means, right? It doesn't mean what it says, like in the literal sense. It does. That's not what the literal means. It means something else. It means so. It's not about making it broader and expanding. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not an also ran. It's not an also-ran situation.
It's about your intention.
Yes, it's about your intentions.
And
But
Hashem,
why?
and Hashem knows,
Why?
Hashem knows your thoughts.
But why can't it mean what it says? We've got to get our thumbs out. And Rashi says, oh, it means this, with a donkey, with a foot. It just says, look, it says, just don't put a stomach. What's Rashi got? What's it all about then, as they say? I mean, what is the point in this whole, tortuous sort of discussion? When it could just simply mean don't do this. Well, really, the answer is actually quite simple. And the answer is that it can't mean about putting a stumbling block in front of a person. Why can't it mean that? We have a principle in Judaism that most of the time, 90% of the time, the Torah doesn't repeat things. It does not repeat things unless it's necessary, vitally necessary. And it's usually vitally necessary to tell you something new you didn't know already. That's why it might repeat it. But here, the truth is already back in Parshas Mishpatim, which talks about very many different civil laws between man and his fellow. It says already that you don't dig a hole in the street. Why don't you dig a hole in the street and then cover it up? Cover up the hole. It's a big cover up. Why don't you do that? Because somebody might fall in the hole and they might hurt themselves, or they might, God forbid, die, or an animal might fall in or die, right? So, in other words, we understand here from this law already in Parsha all the way back in Mishpatim that you're not supposed to do anything that would cause damage to somebody or even their property. So this is like a basic law already. So if you're telling me in front of a blind person, do not put an obstacle. Well, we're not supposed to put an obstacle. But who cares if he's blind or not? The fact is, it makes no difference whether he's blind or not. If he's blind, it's almost like what we call a culture again. How much more so if he's blind, right? But you learn that already from somebody even who can see. You're not supposed to put a stumbling block because they might fall and hurt themselves. So how much more so for somebody who's blind, right? So we already know it. That's why Rashi comes and says, well, it can't mean the simple meaning of this situation. You understand? It must mean something else. So that's why Rashi is forced to say, Denise, you able to mute now? Is that okay? Thanks. So that's why Rashi says, we're not talking about blind in the literal sense. It means blind in sort of and here's a very sort of a subtle thing, because the truth of the matter is that you're giving a person advice. But look, see what at the end of it says, you shall fear God. Because you see, sometimes you can give a person advice, and it may be good advice. It may be good advice. But is it good for them? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It may be a manufactured situation where a person thinks is good advice, but actually this person is not good advice. The reason why you're trying to persuade the person is a good advice, and it could be good advice, but it's not necessarily good for him. And you are exploiting the situation where you may be giving advice. So it's a very important teaching that when you give advice to somebody, you've got to be sure. You've got to try and work very hard. There's no personal, what we call in Hebrew, negia here. It's very hard to translate the word negia, but what's it called? A conflict of interest.
People are
conflict of interest, you see.
People are always trying to make more money.
Yes.
For example, you can have a car dealer, you know what I mean? And he knows if he's going to sell all the extras, even though the person doesn't need it.
Right. Yes.
But he's going to be very persuasive.
Yes. But there you see, of course.
But that's not dangerous. It's not dangerous, yeah.
If that's his job, you see, if it's his job to sell things. You see, when you are coming to buy a car, you want to start, you're going to ask advice from the salesman.
No, you just tell him.
You really want, he's going to try and flog you the most. That's his job. Right. So if you really want advice, you're probably better to ask a friend, not the guy who's selling you the thing, because he'll want to sell you all the wheels, whistles, and bells. you know, you need.
Advice.
Well, sometimes people are reluctant to give advice.
Well, I went to the dentist yesterday because I had a sensitive tooth.
People want
And my
you to
dentist,
Yeah, go on.
but he said it needed to be taken out.
Yes.
He said, no, I don't think you should do anything. If it hurts you again, email me straight away to say it hurts again. So he was
Interesting.
very
That's
honest.
honest.
you see. Yeah.
Oh, it was only like a one-off pain. It wasn't a constant
It's on and off for a while, but it happened over Pacer. Maybe because I ate too much matzah.
matzah, the big crunch.
So he was very honest. So he gave me the right advice.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Well, it is interesting. I'm not so sure about it's Jewish or not. Yes, we call that in dental trade, they call that MI, a dentist. MI. It's a new buzzword. Minimum invasive.
Uh-huh.
Minimum invasive. It's sort of originated in Norway. And Dr. Harris Sadelsky, who was, dentist, he was very involved in that minimum invasiveness. Yeah, we had, we have fillings all the time. And he said, "Oh, don't bother. So just leave them. Just the body fixes. The body fixes itself. The fillings will fix themselves, or they'll lock in and
Or
stop
with
it.
the kids are
They're limited.
anyhow.
No, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And then the other one, of course, they would just use Sensodyne, because that's also very good. It's fantastic. Sensodyne is the best. But we digress. Another digression. Anyway, so this is the lesson of this particular thing that you have to feel. You give the person advice that is good for them, not good for you in any way. Okay, it's not easy, but this is what you got to try and do. Okay, what time is it at the moment? What?
It is just on 10:02.
Just gone through 10:02. Right. So let's just go into one more thing, if I may. Yeah, just discuss with you. See if I've got the right verse here. Yes, here we go. Verse 15. It's the next verse. Ah, very good. Lo yisasu al mishpat. Do not do any perversion. No perversion of justice. Very good. Lo yisasu dol. Do not honor the poor person, but do not honor the face of a great person. In other words, favoritism. Yes,
Because you feel bad for them.
You feel
or
bad
because
for them.
You're going to lose
exactly.
the community.
This
Lose
is-
money if the
Yes,
person.
this is so much the problem of the world in Israel, isn't it? Israel is that the so-called victims are being honored. Their people are, as I say, the Palestinians are the world's favorite victims. Okay. Now you're not. If you want to judge something, you're not supposed to look at. You're supposed to look equally at the parties. Don't honor this one. Don't honor that one. Don't lift this one up. Don't put that one down. Just look at the facts. Look at the details of the facts, right? Okay, and then we have the last part, but tzedek tishbet hamisech. You shall judge your fellow in righteousness. Okay, now Rashi says kamashmao, which basically means, obviously, you're going to use justice. In other words, I guess it's almost a continuation of the previous statement, right? That it's saying you have to be just. Part of being just is being impartial. You must be impartial. Okay, and otherwise the whole thing looks like a joke, right? And unfortunately, there's sometimes, especially in America, when judges are appointed by this one and that one, is political appointments. They even get elected, get elected judges and stuff. It's crazy. So they can't always be very, very objective and impartial. Hello? Yeah. So now Rashi says in Doracher, another thing. You should judge your fellow in the scale of merit. Now, this is a very interesting point over here. What does it mean to judge your fellow in the scale of merit, which is brought, by the way, in Pirkei Avot? Yes, it does mean in very many words. It's judging him in the scale of merit is exactly that. It's really giving him the benefit of the doubt. It's actually more than that. You see, when people sometimes they they don't always pass a test. But when and they don't always act the right way. But when a person, if we judge people on the scale of merit, it's a fascinating thing, really. It's like the opposite of Lashon Hara. The Lashon Hara, of course, is speaking badly about the other person. And that usually causes the other person to get worse. You speak something badly about the other person, that somehow or other they pick up the vibe. That doesn't make any sense, but they do pick it up. And it doesn't make them better, it makes them worse. On the other hand, and so by speaking about it, you reveal and it becomes worse. In the opposite extreme is that if you discuss and you calculate and you work out a merit of why a person did such and such and such, you are actually giving them more power, so that the next time the thing happens, they will be more able to overcome that failure. So when you say don here, in a way, if you would translate it as reveal, even though it means to judge, but in this sense it means to reveal. Okay, so you have to reveal the good in your fellow, and when you reveal the good, and you say that you give a reason why he didn't do that, why didn't that, you sort of make excuses for them. Quite often when it comes to ourselves, we make many excuses why we have fallen short. Yes, in terms of our own behavior, we know we're always making excuses for ourselves. For other people, oh no, I ain't making excuses for him.
Write them up.
Yeah, they are definitely to blame. There's no excuse for them, right? But of course there's excuses for them too. So, but we don't like it's a bit inconvenient to have to work and think, I don't want to think of an excuse for them. It feels much better if I pull them down. Yes? So here the Torah comes along and says, no, the way to improve people's behavior is to actually judge them in the scale of merit. And by judging them in the scale of merit, they will indeed improve their own behavior, which of course is very nicely with Sfiras HaOmer, because this is exactly what the Rabbi did. Funnily enough, it says that the students of Rabbi Akiva, we know, passed away during the Omer time, right? It's 24,000 students, right? We're not talking about people who just died from plague. Terrible situation. I mean, we can't imagine what that is. If a big rabbi dies, it's always a big tzimmus, it's a big hole, a big levite, isn't it? If a few of them died, but the 10 people were killed by the Romans.
Do we have their work? No. So
Hmm.
only of the 5 remaining.
Yes.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, that was real. But the 24,000, one of the reasons they say they passed away, they died, was because they didn't respect each other enough. They didn't respect each other. In terms of their Torah study, they were a bit disrespectful to each other. They argued. And of course, the big question is, well, what about Rabbi Akiva? He was their Rebbe. What did he teach? You have to love your fellow Jew as yourself. So what's going on? You love your fellow Jew as yourself, but how come they all died then? Well, he said, the Rebbe explains, he says they did love each other. They just loved each other a bit too much.
Yeah.
They if somebody loves somebody so much, they love them, they say, I love you so much, I need you to see things from my point of view, because otherwise you will miss out. And since I know what I'm saying is right, I know more than you, and I understand it more clearly, I have to persuade you, if you don't come around to my thing, there's something wrong with you. But I nevertheless will persist. I'll persist, right? And sometimes that persistence can lead to people getting very irritated, very angry, impatient, and insulted. And the problem is that each of the rabbis themselves, each of these students, understood their own way of seeing things as being the right way. They were lots of self-esteem there. Yes? Yeah. No problem with self-esteem. So therefore, the other person, he loved the other guy back. He said, well, I have to have you believing the way I believe. So they both did this, but they both got very impatient with each other because neither was giving. And that is...
Wasn't it a death by some kind of
plague?
Constriction? I know. What was it? Something to do with...
I don't know. You're thinking about... sorry. You're thinking about something. Yeah. That is said by the... there was in ancient times, there was a sort of it's not whooping cough.
The wrong
there is something that was mentioned in ancient times that used to be. They call it.
No, but how did
cough-
these people die? The
a
24,000?
plague? It just is a plague.
What plague though?
Well, I don't know.
What?
Bubonic plague. I don't know. Yeah, well, I said that was a plague. It's some kind of infection, some kind of a plague. Yeah.
That's like a play.
What exactly?
Was. Keep texting. They want a bit of money.
Oh, meanwhile, there's AstraZeneca's just taking their.
Oh, yeah.
They're just taking it off the market.
They
Their-
apologize.
Their vaccines are taken off. Yeah. Anyway, but we digress again. So at this point, we can continue digressing because we're at the end of this year. And thank you very much for joining us. And Mr. Hashem, we'll see you again next week. And hopefully you'll be able to join us in person as well. If you're able. It's always much more fun in person. In Cape Town.
Oh my
We wish
gosh.
bon voyage to Breda Suffering. All the best. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. Thank you.
Be well.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah, you have to.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Tonight's your hands.